The roof, one of the most dangerous locations on the fire ground, but also a location that can have a tremendous benefit on interior firefighting operations if the tactics up here are prioritized and executed efficiently. In this episode, we're going to look at a couple key components of the roof division and vertical ventilation operation. Everything from size up to cutting holes to considerations to take when working off a roof ladder. As always, we're just scratching the surface with the tactics that may be used in vertical ventilation operations. However, I believe the techniques that are shared in this video can be found to be useful regardless of rank and skill level. So with that being said, let's get into it in this episode of the Waco Way Vertical Ventilation.
From the ventilation aspect, pulling up on scene, I'm looking for two things right off the bat. Building construction and design, what kind of roof do I have? Fire location and behavior. Are we going to the front or the backyard? Once we've arrived on scene and we see that the fire is in the rear of the structure, we know we're going to make our access from the rear of the structure. I want to be able to see the location and the behavior at that time. And again, once we get our equipment to the rear, my number one choice for access is always a valley. This is a valley here. In my opinion, this is one of the best places to get on the roof. It's the lowest climbing angle, and it typically can be the safest. Even if the fire is in this location, this would be a better location, in my opinion, to get on and gain access. If we can't find a valley, like this roof here doesn't have a valley, I would go to the shorter side of the roof for sure. Arriving on scene, we all have a job. I'm going to take the thermal imaging camera and approach the structure. If I don't see a self-ventilated hole out front already, I'm going to try to get a better location on the fire myself, whether that's talking to the interior crews or using my thermal camera or my eyes to see what's going on. The driver's going to bring out the chainsaw, get it ready to wherever we end up picking our location to go to the roof, while the firefighter brings the ladder and typically the trash hook. That's a very good tool for sounding. Once I make the roof line from my ladder, I see we got smoke from our turtleback vents. Again, I'm going to use the valley to my advantage, sounding my way as I go to make sure I have a good safety step, get to the highest point of the valley affords me, sound out to the ridge, turn my trash hook over and I have my safety. I can ventilate to the left, I can ventilate to the right. Wind, direction, and speed would probably determine which one of those and location of the fire. Once we've made access through the valley up to our ventilation spot, we've cut our hole. If we don't see the atmosphere change that we're looking for, more heat, flames, smoke, we've got to remember to turn our tools around and go down and take out that ceiling. Sometimes that ceiling is the last thing left that allow all that into the attic and out the hole. Again, being in this position up here, another arriving engine company or the truck company itself can set us a secondary means of egress using ground ladders. In case something goes wrong with this hole, we have another way off the roof. When we have to change roof lines, I'm going to make a visual observation. What's in here? Is there a firewall? Is that the same attic space? Are these turtleback vents smoking the same as these? If I need to ventilate over here, before I change this roof line, I have to sound my location to make sure I'm stepping onto a safe platform.
This would be not off of a roof ladder. We have a relatively low pitch roof. When you dive in the hole, you can keep your saw flatter till you make your dive. After you've made your dive, you want to go vertical with your saw. This will allow you, when you're moving one way or the other, that when you hit that rafter, that you can feel it. Also, if you have it flatter, you're more apt to cut through the rafter.
All right, at this point, our firefighters, we finished cutting our hole. Most everybody's next to the ladder. I'm just going to flap the roof and let all the smoke out. Okay, at this point, we've determined we're going to work off a roof ladder, but for a couple of different things, for slick roof or steep pitch. At this point, I'm going to go up, sound the roof. My firefighter's getting ready to come cut a hole. I've sounded up to this point. My firefighter's going to come up the roof to prepare to cut the hole.
At this point, we're getting ready to cut our hole. We've decided now, since we're cutting off of a roof ladder, to switch up from a 6 foot by 4 foot hole to a 6 foot vertical by 4 foot wide hole. So we're going to dive in like normal, work our way across till we get to the far rafter. Then we can work our way down the roof and cut across the bottom. So as we're cutting across back towards us, we may run into a problem where we can only come so far because our ladder is in the way. If that's the case, we work our way up to the peak and move our ladder.
We've decided we need more room on the roof. Our roof ladder's in the way, so we've both made our way to the top, to the peak. We're going to disengage the hooks on the ladder and slide it over one span of the ladder. Do it.
I'm going to finish my cut completely across to my rafter where I need to stop. Continue the cut down. At this point, instead of having a flip-flop, send it to my officer to finish the cut. At this point, we'll flip the roof. If this hole is done right, since we're only rolling one rafter, then it should louver on top of one rafter. But in the real world, sometimes we don't always get our holes, our cuts lined up across the correct rafters. If you're still spanning 2 rafters and you're, instead of trying to punch through the roof to make a hole, you can at that point just nip off one corner at the top of your square, and then you can go in with a trash hook, gives him a place to hook with that and flip it over.
Prior to getting on the roof, it's imperative that we know the signs and symptoms of a bad roof to determine if it's a go or no-go for vertical ventilation. Roofs are designed to be watertight, keep all the elements out. So as I step off on the roof, I should see 0 smoke issuing through the deck itself. Second thing I'm looking at is being able to see the rafters through the roof. If I can see the rafters through the roof, we've got roof sagging, which means it could be between the wall plate and the ridge line, or it could be the ridge itself, and you've got rafters on both sides which are compromised, which could dump you in the attic also. This brings up another point. The absence of turtlebacks or roof vents could mean that you have the presence of a ridge vent, which runs the ridge of the roof, thus leaving a 4 to 6 inch gap between the 2 pieces of plywood under your feet. So again, signs and symptoms of bad decking. If you approach the roof and you see wisps of smoke that look like tiny tornadoes, so to speak, issuing through your decking and through your composite, it's a good chance that your OSB or your decking, whatever you're standing on, is already compromised. If you find yourself needing to vertically vent a bad roof, use your tools. Working off a roof ladder for that safety net, or swinging the aerial device over and working from the truck. Driving around and looking at your territory, knowing the roofs that are in your area. 80 to 90% of what we're going to get on is going to be newer construction, which means lightweight construction that we're seeing more and more now is more likely to collapse on us or have a shorter period of time to actually get on the deck chain.